Welcome back to Psychology Bites, the podcast where we talk about all things psychology and the stuff that you want to know. We're here once again with Dr. Cindy Edens, who is a licensed counselor. I'm your host, Heather Edens, also Cindy's daughter-in-law. I hold a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, where I minored in psychology, and together we research to give you the best information for this podcast. So today's topic is the secrets of love and relationships. We have some guest speakers that you'll get to see at the end of this video. We asked them some questions to give some input for this episode, and it just kind of gives multiple opinions about what we're going to talk about. So we're going to dive into today's topic. So we're going to ask Dr. Edens the questions for the episode, and then at the end you'll see where we ask the questions to our guest speakers. And they're kind of like the same type of topics. So today it seems now more than ever that we're seeing kind of a breakdown of the family. One theory is that the family unit has lost a lot of its traditional functions because of modernization and growth of our communities, which lead to other entities taking over a number of these functions. So traditionally, the family served the following functions of economic, protection, education, religious, affection, procreation, support, and adoption. So I have a few questions for you. Of these different functions, which ones do you feel are essential to the development and maintenance of strong family bonds within both of the immediate family and the extended family?
So if you look at moral reasoning and moral development, Kohlberg did those. He did the Heinz experiment. It's totally Googleable. Y'all can Google it. It's called the Heinz experiment by Kohlberg. But he did that, and what he really found out, the majority of people in level 2, stage 3 and 4 morality, most people, at least in these US of A, tend to get caught up in the religious and like rules, like laws, law and order and religious of family. So their moral development usually is stunted in those two areas. And stunted by their adopting their families rather than getting a bunch of information and developing their own. The newer generations, though, Gen Z and Alpha, are not like that. They are developing. They are younger, and yet they're in level 3 in stage 5, because there's so much information out on the internet. It's just the internet. There's so much information readily available where it never used to be. And older generations, I hear a lot in counseling, older generations are like, my niece is voting this way and I vote that way. Our family has always been this way and I can't believe that she's doing it, kinds of stuff, because it happens so much. These younger generations are morally moving in a different direction, and that's mostly in religious. A lot of people that I talk to in younger generations feel like they basically had stuff shoved down their throats, and so then they want to go out and they want to look and see what else is there. And many religions actually do that. Like there's a Yom Kippur or something, Pennsylvania, in upstate New York.
Like the Amish country?
The Amish have this time period where like they go out at 18, I think, and they go in the world and they get to see and do whatever they want to do so that they kind of get it out of their system, and then they come back, and they usually all come back. They don't have to, but they come back most of the time. Mm-hmm. And it's because I think they do get it out of their system, and they're not raised with the internet. They don't have all that information readily available to them.
Okay. What value do you see in maintaining close bonds among extended family?
There's always going to be value. I mean, babysitting services.
A support system.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's always good. Do they always do it? No. And, honestly, in my generation, it wasn't acceptable to put boundaries on family members, even to put boundaries, period. Now, healthy boundaries comes out of my mouth every time I'm in a counseling session with somebody, because everybody's putting up healthy boundaries. It's a newer generation thing, but it's healthy boundary when they feel like somebody's hurting their feelings all the time or whatever. They can put up a healthy boundary. Some people were for a while. I feel like it was just they went from society. Our society specifically went from, we got to support him no matter what. Oh, that's just Uncle Joe. He's crazy. He stays back in the back room and yells and screams. We just don't pay him no attention, kind of deal. To no, we're just going to get rid of everybody that is bothering us. To now it's kind of morphing into, I feel like the healthier relationships morph into, we can put a healthy boundary, but we can still have contact.
Which I think is kind of where the next question comes from. The next question is kind of talks about how society has been impacted by a loss of connection with extended family. And I would say that that's probably where that comes from, just that the younger generation is putting up boundaries and not allowing this kind of behavior to keep going on.
And quite honestly, my generation and the generation before me has some very bad behavioral traits to them. Like, seriously, I always say there's a lot of narcissistic traits, and I really think it stems from the hippie thing, because me, it was all about me generation, I can do anything, love, peace, whatever, but then it got carried to their children, and it was, too much of the me generation stuff. We're too selfish. We are pretty, selfish. Ask any other country.
Okay. So now we're going to switch to talking about love languages. So according to Gary Chapman, there are 5 love languages. You guys have probably heard about this. It's the words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. And per his theory, we all have 1 to 2 primary love languages, and that's how we feel most loved by other people, whether that be our family members, our romantic partners, or our friends. And so that's one of the questions that I asked our guests that you'll see is if they know what their love language is. What's your love language?
Acts of service and words of affirmation.
I said mine was quality time.
Yeah.
So,
I like quality time too.
Why do we tend to love others in our own love language?
Unfortunately, that's actually a thing. So if my love language is acts of service and yours is quality time, if I'm doing things for you or buying things for you or whatever, that might not fill up your cup. You want quality time, and I'm not doing that. I'm doing what I know to do, not what the other person needs me to do necessarily. Knowing these love languages allows people to, okay, this is mine and that one's yours, so you work on mine and I'll try to do yours. It's really the way it should go.
Yeah. So what struggles can arise when you are loved in a love language that does not match your primary language? Like, how can that cause issues for couples? Say if one partner's love language is physical touch and the other person's is quality time, and the partner that likes physical touch is just trying to be affectionate towards the partner that wants quality time but is not actually giving them quality time.
It's real kind of easy to work out in therapy, how people work it out behind closed doors, I don't know. But I get a lot of couples, and this happens a lot actually, and we do talk about the love languages, and so like the guys might be physical touch and the girls might be quality time, and so then we kind of work it out. Well, okay, so let's do things together that put us also touching together, and like taking showers or back massages, neck massages, that kind of thing. And it can be quality time and physical touch at the same time.
So I think the struggle would be if you're not meeting your partner's love language, it can lead to arguments.
What leads to arguments is our belief that somebody else should be doing something that we think they should be doing.
Like people saying, you're not touching me enough, you're not giving me enough hugs, or whatever.
And you'd be amazed at how many people will say, I would have never done that. Why did they do that? Why would he do that? I would never do that. Well, but you're not him. And so when we have expectations gets us in trouble. When we have expectations of how somebody else should behave, we get in trouble. instead, this is why communication. That's why, you know.
Yeah. And so understanding each other's love language can just help. It can only help you grow.
It can help with community. The more we allow ourselves to be vulnerable with our partner, the closer we will be. But if we hide that vulnerability, then we're hiding a big part of ourselves from our partner.
Yeah. Okay. Over the past decade, the ways in which we meet our potential partners has changed pretty dramatically with the abundance of social media and the multiple avenues for meeting potential partners like dating apps. So most people nowadays know someone who has met their partner on a dating app or somewhere online. Do you believe that the use of social media and dating services has helped speed up the dating process by filtering out individuals that do not share the same values and backgrounds?
I think it really does. You know, there's all kinds of dating apps too. Like there's a country
Farmers only.
farmers only. That's it. For people that live on farms. I mean, go figure. There's you know, college students. There's all kinds of things. A lot of them are hookups, you know, and people taking advantage of other people and catfishing. And catfishing isn't just trying to, oh, they didn't ask me for money, so they're not a catfish. It isn't always about that. Sometimes it's just about, you know, like wanting to sponge off somebody, you know, cost of living stuff. But, you know,
Yeah.
it does speed up the process though. And I think it eliminates some stuff because, you know, like, people are like, oh, what do I got to go to a bar to meet somebody? You know, it's my age. I can't go to a bar to meet somebody. That's ridiculous. I'm not bar quality anymore. Bar age, whatever. So, you know, like, what are you going to do? Go to a library or, you know, I mean, like,
Go to the senior center.
go to the senior center,
So
go to church.
overall, you'd say it's a good thing. Overall.
Yes.
Okay.
I know people that have got married through dating apps.
Yeah. Yes. So, how do you think the physical distance impacts the process of meeting and getting to know the other person? Like when you don't meet in person, but you're talking about dating.
I think they talk more. They get to know each other better.
I think they have to. They don't have a
Yeah,
choice.
because they don't have anything else to do, so they have to communicate. And, you know, and now people are encouraged to ask questions of each other, you know, well,
Mhm.
you know, that just brings out more information.
Yeah.
I feel like it helps.
How do you think that social media and texting impacts the development of a relationship, like good and bad?
Expectations would be the bad. If you text your partner every morning, good morning, but your partner doesn't like mess with their phone very much and doesn't respond and say good morning too, you might like have all hurt feelings, get up all in your head, you know, oh, he whatever. But, you know, he might just be busy. And expectations, again,
Yeah.
it's bad. But if you don't have expectations, you just simply send out a good morning with nothing, no expectations of a reply, you can be happy. And they'll be happy getting it. And then maybe they will do it back. You can't push people into doing things.
Yeah.
Well, they stand against that. People don't like that.
But on the positive, it's like they can connect. Like if one partner's at work and the other's at home, they can still text each other.
And I always suggest like emoticons. Like
emojis.
When, you know, like couples are working on their communication or something, like I'll suggest that they just send an emoji about, you know,
I think
their
emojis
face.
are so important because
They
it helps set the mood of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You can say something and it can be taken in multiple ways, but
Yep.
if you put the emoji with it,
They know how to take it.
they know exactly what you mean. Yes.
Exactly.
I think it's important. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Oh, actually, one more question. How do you think the use of social media in relationships today compared to dating without technology?
I will say this much: social media increases a lot of suicide rates. Social media is bad on the fact that, you know, like people look at it their friends, Facebook or Instagram, and they even actually say this, so I know people are thinking it. They will literally say, oh, their life is so perfect, look at everything, they got, how come I, blah, 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 blah. Their life isn't perfect, they're just putting a show on for you. Nobody's life is perfect.
It creates drama.
We all have stuff. Everybody has stuff.
It just creates drama.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. So in today's society, living together before marriage, or even instead of marriage, has become an accepted practice. What has changed in society that has led to the acceptance of cohabitation prior to marriage, or instead of marriage?
Children not going to the church with their parents. Not that the parents didn't take them when they were young, but then they move away.
Not accepting the religion of their parents.
A lot of kids have done that, and so the values there that held that together are no longer really there.
Yeah.
People are going their own way now.
Okay. So this one says, even though many people think they're making sure that they're a good fit with their partner by living together prior to marriage, research shows that divorce rates are higher for those who cohabitate before marriage than for those who choose to wait to live together until after marriage. Why do you think that cohabitation puts the couple at a higher risk of divorce?
I don't necessarily think it does. I think that the research is a little skewed. I do think that statistics always can be skewed, for the record.
It's different for each generation.
It is, and that's where it's skewing. That's where we got things. Because the older generation stayed together no matter what, through thick and thin. My grandmother and grandfather would have never thought about getting divorced. It just was not.
It was taboo.
It was very taboo. I grew up as my mom was single, and I was like the only kid I ever knew that had only one parent, like the only one. So it hasn't really been a thing until recently.
Yeah.
And the newer generations.
The only thing I could think of, like with my generation, would be that for some couples, living together before marriage takes away the pressure of commitment. And so one partner may feel like there's no need to get married because we're already living as if we're married. We're already, living together.
Well, and some people feel that way, and the only benefit to getting married is taxes.
Yeah.
And some people will get divorced because there's benefits to not being married. I have seen that too, actually. But yeah, people don't think of marriage as a religious bond much anymore. Maybe, yeah, some people do, absolutely. But I don't think the majority does. I think the majority thinks of it as a legal bond.
Okay. So next we're moving into parenting a little bit. So we talk about the 3 parenting styles, and I talk about it with our guests, so they'll get to hear that spill then. But you know already that the parenting styles...
There's really 4, though. What? Authoritarian, authoritative, permissive, and neglectful.
Yeah. But the 3 main ones.
Permissive without neglectful?
Yes.
Mm.
Correct.
You just want me to describe them?
No, I described them in the video.
Okay.
I was just going to ask you the questions that I asked them. Which parenting style do you think that your parents used with you?
My mother?
Yeah.
Authoritarian.
Okay. Why do you think they chose that style?
Oh, she didn't choose it. It was what her mother did, and it was what my grandmother's mother did, and it was what my grandmother's mother's mother did.
Just what she
Something. It was generational. Authoritarian parenting styles are very intergenerational. Their parents did it, so they did it, and not many used to be authoritative. Authoritatives come a long way. I teach parents authoritative all the time. But it doesn't mean that it was in the older generations. It just wasn't.
How did the style impact your life?
They say a lot about kids raised in different parenting styles, the whole idea of the parenting styles is to find out how the kids will grow up under these parenting styles. And if you're thinking, for the record, that once you turn 18 or 21, you are magically an adult, so your parents' influence no longer exists, that isn't at all true. As evidenced by absolutely everybody in the entire world, because when you get high stress, your parents come out of your mouth. When you become a parent, your parents just do, unless you do a lot of counseling and really work on it and say that. And my mom and my mom's generation and the generation before that, her mom, didn't have the information and the availability to know how to change these things. There was counseling, of course, but it was like for the rich or the richest of the rich. I don't know, but it just wasn't a thing. And so it's very different.
Do you think that you chose the same or a different style when raising your own children?
I went by the books. I did not want to be my mother. And I decided that when I got pregnant, I went back to school for psychology. Environmental economics at first, but then I switched to psychology, mostly because of animals. But I've told parents a lot, like especially people that are becoming parents or whatever, to read a child development book, because it has all the best stuff in it. It really does, and you can get it through all the ages. And the developmental psychologists, they know their stuff.
Okay. Over the past number of decades, divorce and separation have become fairly common, with about 50% of first-time marriages ending in divorce or separation. Even though this is difficult for the husband and wife, the victims in a lot of these cases can be children. So from the children's perspective, what are the consequences of divorce?
So I've had kids either way. So some kids are really, really upset, and it's really bad, especially when mom and dad can't make it work. There's an app that allows moms and dads to talk to each other so that everything goes straight to the lawyers, and the lawyers have access to it too. So does the judge, by the way. And so in this app, you can't say anything bad because the judge is going to see what you said bad to them.
Yeah.
and you can't communicate any other way. So when you're dropping off and exchanging the kid, it's very tense, right? Because you're here with somebody who you can't communicate with. You're not even allowed to, because you can't manage to without fighting. And so here's this kid kind of stuck in the middle between, they have a relationship with mommy and they have a relationship with daddy, and it doesn't matter which one did something bad or nobody, whatever. It doesn't matter about mommy and daddy's relationship. It only matters about their relationship with each individual, each mom and dad. And that happens. However, when parents get divorced and they can manage to get along and discuss everything and be able to be friendly in front of the kid, it goes a lot better for the kid.
Yeah.
But I will also say that I've had numerous adults and kids say that they would have rather their parents got divorced instead of having to grow up listening to them fight all the time. You'd be amazed at how thin walls are, because like adults always say, like, I hid in the closet, I had headphones, I did this, I did that, and I could still hear them fighting. And the parents like, oh, we never ever fought, we always went in the bedroom to fight. Well, okay, but they heard you in the bedroom fighting.
Yeah.
And then like siblings would gather together in one of the siblings' rooms and hold on to each other while they fight. I mean, like, it's way worse to put somebody through long-term trauma, it really is, than just be over and done with it.
What are the emotional reactions that parents can expect to see in their children during and in the months after divorce?
parents, it depends on if the kid gets counseling or not. I mean, just because I'm a counselor, but not, whatever. I really do think that a kid benefits from counseling in that kind of situation. Mom and dad, whether they're on their best behavior or their worst behavior or anywhere in between, cannot be the outside listening ears for that child, where the child feels comfortable. The child's not going to feel comfortable talking about mom or dad in front of mom or dad. So they need that third party that has nothing to do with anything that they can vent to. And really that's what they need, is to vent. If we could all vent, we'd be so much better off.
That kind of answered the next question. What steps parents can take to minimize the impact on children?
And learn tools. And there's lots of tools.
You didn't answer my other question.
Oops, sorry.
What emotional reactions will the children display to the parents?
It depends. A lot of times they will hibernate. A lot of times they'll get angry and have acting out behaviors. Angry and acting out behavior is probably the most common. And it gets misdiagnosed all the time. In marriage and family therapy classes, you call that the problem child. And so the problem child of the family usually acts out because of something wrong in the family unit. And so then everybody focuses on the child that's acting out. Oh, well, he has temper tantrums. Oh, he hit a boy at school. Oh, he or she, whatever. So the focus is on the poor problem child, but really the child is acting out because the family unit's skewed. Oops,
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay. As there is a growing trend of couples having children later in their marriage, this has led to a phenomenon called the sandwich generation, in which these couples are simultaneously taking care of their children and their aging parents. What is the financial and emotional impact on those who are caring for both children and parents?
I don't know. I feel like we've always had the impact of adults having to take care of their adult parents while they had children. I feel like that's been a long-standing issue among most generations. But it depends. It depends on how they do it. It depends on finances. It depends on a lot of things, and it depends on how people interact with each other.
Yeah.
If they just fight all the time, this might be bad. Oh, she's cranky, she's old, we gotta let her get away with it. She's earned that right to, no, we don't earn the right to be mean to anybody. I don't care how old we are. I get dementia, but, they can't help it, kind of deal. But for the most part, if we're just nice, we get along a lot better. Just saying.
It can be stressful, but there's resources.
There are. And I've seen families do the unthinkable with helping their people and kids all at the same time, and they just balance it really well.
Okay. That pretty much covers the things we had for today's episode. Obviously, love and relationships are a very broad topic, so we tried to just cover a few different aspects of it. I think we can agree probably the most important part of a relationship is communication and having good communication skills. Do you have any other tips that we didn't talk about or didn't share that you'd want to share about relationships?
I think I said it, but yeah, communication would be number one. But vulnerability would probably I'd pick as number two. Allowing yourself to be vulnerable with your partner. Most people want to put up walls. And when everybody puts up walls because they've been hurt, keep in mind, walls aren't smooth walls. When we're putting those up emotionally, they're more like barbed wire. They not only affect people around us that we want to keep away, but they hurt us. We get hurt by that wall too. And so walls aren't healthy, emotionally speaking. And being able to be vulnerable and lower those walls, and sure, you might get hurt, but you won't know if you don't try.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us for our 5th episode of Psychology Bites. If there's anything that we didn't talk about in regards to relationships that you want to hear about, reach out to us and let us know. Our website is on our YouTube page, and you can always use the comments to reach out to us. Something else?
Dogs love unconditionally.
Yes, they do. Most animals, I feel like. Cats too.
Especially, well, we're the caretakers of those felines.
But as a reminder, if anyone is interested in hearing more from Dr. Edens, she is accepting new clients online only at Garden of Eden Counseling. Of course, this is only if you live in Georgia. And that information is also on our website, which is again on our YouTube page. But thanks for joining us. Don't forget to watch our special guests right after this and the questions that we ask them. And join us next week when we're going to try to talk a little bit more about those parenting styles and family dynamics.
Good, because I have more to say about parenting styles.
But happy St. Patrick's Day, and have a good week, everybody.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.